Welcome to the Greater Culture Podcast, where we have conversations about how to elevate the quality of life through movement, nutrition, recovery, and mindset practices.
Welcome to another episode of the Greater Culture Podcast. Your host, Brad Marshall. Really excited today to be joined by Vincent Bounds. He is the owner of Myology Sports Massage, somebody who I've known for a number of years now and worked with. Really excited to get in some great conversation about how he's helping people with their quality of life, whether that's a performance-related issue, whether it's just wanting to move and feel a little bit better. So, Vincent, thanks so much for taking some time to spend with us today.
Look, thanks for having me on. I appreciate you thinking about me and asking me to come on.
Yeah, and so as the owner of Myology Sports Massage, would love to hear a little bit more about how did you get into the world of massage and sports massage, and how did you come to own your own company that now helps service a number of areas with a number of therapists helping people to live a little bit better in their lives?
Well, there's a lot there because this is now almost 15 years in the process of being a therapist. And so I started out in the relaxation world as a massage therapist just because that's just where all the schools kind of, gear you up for and kind of focus you towards. And I had to actually seek out sports massage continuing education classes to even remotely get the education that I was looking for dealing with like sports type treatments. And the types of treatments that were being promoted 12, 15 years ago are way different than what's being talked about and promoted now. So I don't get off the tangent. I'm going to keep going through the timeline. In 2000, late 13, early 14, I left my corporate job with Sprint, Nextel, and dove into, and I've had my license since 2008. I dove into the sports world full time, and that was under a different company with a business partner at the time, and that's where I kind of started to cut my teeth in this community. And then after a lot of grinding. I think I had an office back then, and out of 6 days, I think I was in that office 1 day a week. And I was traveling around to any CrossFit that would talk to me, just trying to develop a connection, show them what we could do, show them how we could be a benefit to their community. That was a solid 2-3 years of just grinding that out. And I think maybe year 4 is when I started to have 2 and 3 days in my office. And now, fast forward to 18, that business dissolved, and I went out on my own and started Myology. And so since 19, most of that group of therapists that was with me in the earlier days was still with me when we transitioned. So that helped a lot as far as just moving forward. And there's actually been a lot of transition since then as far as the team goes and the growth of the team, the size of the team. We were probably steady around 4 or 5 therapists for a long time. Now we're up to about 10 therapists. And outside of like a Massage Envy or Hand and Stone or like your corporate type settings, I think we are one of the largest teams, massage teams and sports massage teams out there, which is kind of scary and kind of crazy and kind of excited all at the same damn time, that we've gotten that far. But we've just comes from putting the work in. We've put the work in for a long time. So now 2023, like I said, we've got 10 therapists. We sponsor, I think we're at 20 athletes all over various genre of sport. I look forward to, because we're going to have a ton of growth in 23 and 24. I have a lot that I can see on the horizon, and I know we'll get there. But yeah, I'm just super excited to see where we get.
Yeah, I love hearing, the story and seeing the journey for folks of starting off small, building into something that is really helpful for a lot of people out there. And so I do want to take some time to understand the world of massage just a little bit better. So I'd love for you to tell us, where did the name Myology come from? And then in addition to that, you focus on sports massage, which when people go to their typical spa or whatnot, there's so many options of massages available. So tell us a little bit about the name Myology, but then also, how did you settle on sports massage, or what does that actually mean for somebody who's not very familiar with it?
Okay. Well, first of all, kudos to my wife for coming up with the name Myology, because I was struggling with myo this, myo that, blah, 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 blah. And she was like, hey, what about myology? And I was like, nah, that's an actual word. There's no way in the world that that's available. And so we looked it up, and lo and behold, nobody had taken it. I was like, oh, okay. And for people who don't know, myology means the study of muscle. So there you go. And as far as sports massage goes, like when you go to some of these other places, what is being called sports massage is not what I would traditionally group as sports massage. So when you go to like affiliate or like your massage envies, your hand and stones and whatnot, sports massage to them is just more vigorous, faster massage. And to a point, that's somewhat accurate, because sports massage is typically you're preparing an athlete for something, so you're trying to be more vigorous, stimulate blood flow, get the joints more fluid and moving a little bit better than what they were. So to a point, that's not wrong, but it's just not quite right as well. Our form of sports massage, I developed the Myology method and put that into an actual written format 2 years ago. And so the way we go about it is we use several modalities in a particular sequence. And then if you come into work that day and you don't have the headspace to be creative or pay attention or whatever the case may be, if you just followed the methods and like protocols that we have in place, it should help you get anywhere from 80 to 90% efficacy in that one treatment. And then that gives that point, that still gives you the time to rebook that client and actually be prepared the following time, if that's something that happened to you. Or you can be just completely ready for that client to come in. You use those protocols, and that's exactly what you needed to do, and you still get 90% efficacy or better because it works. But the protocols are meant to help amplify the natural talents that each of my therapists has. It's not to take away from or subtract. It's only there to help them do their job better, but enhance or promote their natural abilities, the areas in which they naturally gravitate to do their work better.
Yeah, I love that. And I love that there's a systematic approach to it, and also giving a little bit more context to when somebody might want to look at sports massage. Because I think when people look at this idea of quality of life and like, I want to feel good, I want to move good, there's so many things out there of like, should I go to a chiropractor, a physical therapist, my doctor, a massage therapist? So when you start to think about that, what would be your reaction if somebody's like, oh, why should I go check out sports massage, or how might that help me? How might you guide somebody to say, hey, maybe come check us out, because we might be able to help you feel a little bit better, move a little bit better compared to maybe some of those other modalities?
So I will say massage, sports massage, chiropractic, PT. They are all adjunct therapies of each other. Like they work well together. And oftentimes you might need one, two, or three of them at the same time, depending on what you're dealing with, what you're going through, what your body has got going on. But with sports massage, we focus on posture. We focus on like the imbalances that you create because a lot of people sit at a desk these days. That's just the jobs that are there. We're not out there, digging ditches and getting our hands dirty and being active like the jobs that we've had in decades past. Most of the jobs that are around these days are all sitting around a computer or looking at a screen of some sort. And so we get some pretty heinous postures for, head, T-Rex syndrome, where you're just looking like this all the time. If you're listening to this on the radio and you couldn't see me, my arms are up at my chest and my head is down in my hands because I'm staring at my phone. And so that straightens the natural curve in your neck. That puts that Quasimodo hump in your back. That puts a pelvic tilt, posterior pelvic tilt on your hips. It creates a bunch of problems. And then those of us that are active, we get up from those jobs and then we're going to go down to the local facility, whether it's a CrossFit or whatever our exercise of enjoyment is to stay in shape. And we're like, hey, we've been sitting for 8 hours and treating our body like an asshole, but now it's time to go get active and be very energetic with it. And the body's like, oh, time out. Hold on. You've asked me to be like a certain way for the past 8 hours. And I said, okay. And now you're saying to do something very dynamic. I can't do that. Stop. And so that's when we run into injuries. Because, the body will allow you to do what you're asking it to do. But if you don't do something to help it, at a certain point, it's going to be like, you know what? I told you this wasn't going to happen. So tear, rip, boom, bang. You got an injury. And it's because we're stubborn as humans. And we don't listen to our bodies a lot of times until it finally does something that makes us stop or slow down. And then we're like, what happened? I don't understand. Well, duh. You kept pushing it too hard. You kept the rev meter up in the 7,000 to 9,000 range, and it gave up. It said, I'm sorry, no more. So back, I think I got a little sidetracked there, but back to what you're saying, it's postural stuff. And so that's what we focus on. The patterns in the body that are presented through fascial lines, and that helps us get people back to doing what they love to do.
Yeah, and I think sometimes you see or hear the term sports massage and you assume I have to be some kind of an athlete or competing or something like that. But you can help people who, like you said, sit at a desk all day, enjoy working out, and just want to feel a little bit better, move a little bit better. They can benefit from a sports massage just as much as somebody who maybe is training for hours a day trying to compete somewhere.
Yeah, so it's all relative. Athlete is relative. The person that is going from couch to 5K versus the person that is training for an elite level sport, we'll say Olympics because everybody understands what the Olympics means, that's a high level athlete. The 80% effort from the person going couch to 5K is relative to their body as the 80% effort for the elite athlete to their body. It's the same. Their central nervous system perceives it the same way. Now, how they're able to go about doing things may be quite a bit different. The strength may be quite a bit different, but the body's perception of the couch to 5K 80% versus the elite athlete 80% is the exact same. So if you are trying to be active with your body, you need to pay attention to it. I don't care at what level you're at. You just need to pay attention to it and make sure you take care of it.
I love that idea too, that, you know, the needs of the population vary in degree, not necessarily kind. Everybody could use some benefit from some massage to help with posture and getting muscles to move the way they're meant to and designed to move to help you, regardless of if you're just starting out on your fitness journey or you've been in it for a long time, which is one of the big focuses that we have with Greater Culture, this idea of quality of life. And when you think about this concept, quality of life, what comes to mind, or how would you wrap your head around, or how do you define this idea of quality of life, and how we help people maybe improve that?
So I think that, first of all, I think everyone would have a better quality of life if they just address their perspective.
Mm.
If you roll out of bed and the first thing you do is first thing you do is like anybody that you care about, that you love, that means anything to you, if they're okay, if they're healthy, or there's no major fires to put out, the rest of the day is fucking aces. Like there's nothing else to worry about. You know, you get your coffee order wrong, doesn't matter. Being late a little bit because something delayed you, whatever, doesn't matter. Just get on with it. You're fine. But if we could just address our perspective, everybody would be a lot happier. Just bottom line.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think that's a really powerful viewpoint of having mindset be such an important piece of where we're at in terms of how happy, satisfied, fulfilled I am. And if the perspective that I have aligns with, you know, whether it's the behaviors I have, whatever else I might have in my life, that's going to move the needle big time for us. So I really like that idea of this perspective. And I'm curious because, you know, you work in a profession that does help people to move better, feel better, be able to accomplish some of the goals or intentions that they're interested in pursuing. What are some of the things that excite you most about helping people with their quality of life, whether it's to move better, feel better, come back from injury, or just to reach that next level of performance that they might be seeking?
Oh man, it's helping people do what they want to do, what they want to accomplish. That's what gives me energy. I'm 47 now, and I'm going as hard now as I was in year one. And helping you guys accomplish your goals, whether it's training, whether it's being just a sounding board, whatever the case may be. It doesn't have to be directly related to the tissue work that I do on you. That's what gives me the fuel. Uh, it's like for example, like when you guys, like, you're one of our sponsor athletes. When you guys go and compete, I don't care where you end up at the end of the day. One of the things and I don't know if I've had opportunity to tell you this directly, but I tell everyone on a regular basis, just go have fun. Just go have fun. If you go out there and you have fun, the rest will sort itself out. And, like, if I see you guys having fun, man, I'm just good. I'm solid.
I think that speaks to a lot to, you know, the success not only you've experienced, but the growth you've had because of that viewpoint of getting the energy and getting excited about seeing others do well, feel better, or just go out there and have fun. It's contagious, and people want to be around that. People want to experience what it's like to be part of a team where, hey, others are the priority, and we push and we help other people to be the best they can, but also in a way that's fun. There's not the pressure and the stress of needing to perform at a certain level. So I think that's a really cool perspective there.
Yeah, it's like I've had some moments this past year where massage therapist, my team has had an issue, but they've been kind of to a point, didn't want to come say anything to me about something because they were didn't want to disappoint me. They were scared, whatever the case may be. And it's like I tell them all the time, like, guys, no, I don't care what it is. first off, I can't help you if I don't know about it. But second off, whatever it is, we're just going to have a conversation, because whatever is done. That's fine. It is what it is. We'll figure out how to move forward, but we'll just have a conversation. Me getting anxious or upset or getting all uppity and all that good stuff, that doesn't help them. It doesn't help the situation. It doesn't improve anything. So like I said, it's just perspective.
Yeah, and helping to support each other, let them know, hey, I'm here, I'm the sounding board. Even if it's a tough conversation, like, we can figure this thing out. And I think that's a really awesome viewpoint to take. So one of the things that we know to be true too is that if we have daily practices that help support, what our goals are, our intentions are, whether it's to grow myology or to help athletes, always love to hear, what are some of the daily practices or daily habits that you like to do that help you to live the best quality of life that you can?
I could definitely be a lot better at going through the goals piece and recognizing the weekly, the monthly, the quarterly, the annual goals. What's the 1 year, 3 year, blah blah blah. I struggle with writing that stuff out. So I could definitely be a lot better with that kind of stuff. For me personally, one, I mentioned it before, is perspective. Just start your day with a good perspective. Be humble and have gratitude. And just know that no matter what comes your way, you're just going to address it. You're going to move forward. And, no matter what it is, you can at least figure out how to take that first step in front of you. And then you can figure out how to take the next step. And then eventually you've taken enough steps to where you've addressed that certain problem or issue or whatever's going on. And you're now beyond it and you can keep going. But yeah, that's pretty much my daily.
Yeah, and for some people, it has a very formal look and feel of, whether it's a journaling process, whatnot, when you talk about this idea of gratitude or perspective or how you think about things. For you, is it a formal process of actually writing some things out? Is it more of just a mental rehearsal piece of, hey, I just want to make sure I capture these things I'm grateful for? What's my perspective like today? How is that unfolded, or what does that look like for you each day?
I have tried the journaling piece. It's not been something that has kind of gone overly well for me. But I understand that a ton of people get a lot of use out of it and a lot of great response from it. So for me, I have a couple of sources that if I need some fuel for kind of bringing me back to center and whatnot, I'll actually go listen to a couple of entrepreneurs, a couple of authors on either going through their YouTube channel or listen to one of their audiobooks on Audible or stuff like that. Gary Vaynerchuk, he's one of mine that I just absolutely adore, and his book 12 and a half. I gave that book to every single one of my therapists. And then I even bought extras to be able to hand out to people if I thought that somebody might need one. But I'm a horrible reader. Always have been. No matter what, if I sit down and try and read something, I'll get sleepy and tired, and it just doesn't work out that well. And so I can't. I'm not successful at it that way. So if it's an audiobook, I will listen to it and I'll listen to it and I'll listen to it and just try and pick up things I didn't pick up before. And I've probably listened to that book 3 or 4 times, just picking up on something different that maybe I didn't recognize or I didn't absorb the first time through and this and the other. But it does help me, find my center and perspective and, remembering how to be humble or show empathy or any of that stuff. So those are things that work for me.
Yeah, I love that idea too, that different forms or different ways to attack some of these concepts work for different people. So for some people, they might appreciate journaling or meditating or thinking about some concepts. Some people prefer to read, take in podcasts, YouTube videos. and figuring out what's going to be the right strategy, the right method for you to get some of those daily practices in that keep you centered, keep you focused, keep you humble, and also at the same time motivated. So I like that perspective of, even though maybe reading's not your thing, you still find some value in listening to books, finding authors who you resonate with, and then, hey, sharing that, which is really cool as well.
Yeah,
And so I'm curious.
finding
Yeah.
authors. Yeah, that's important. Like, just find some people that speak your language, and that you can pull something from.
Yeah, 100%. So as somebody who gets the opportunity to understand the human body, understand how the muscles and tissues are all connected and work on people all the time, I'm sure people are curious or interested to hear some of your perspectives on things that they can do that might be helpful for improving the way they feel, the way they move, because there's so much information out there now and so many different things that people are trying to get into, of like, well, you need to do this, you need to do that. So just what are some big themes, or maybe some simple practices that you've seen or come across that you think would be really helpful for people to just feel a little bit better, move better, take care of their bodies in a way that can help them to live a happier and healthier life?
There's one thing that'll help with that. Move. No, seriously, but movement is medicine for the body. It stimulates blood flow. That helps to lubricate your joints. It helps to lubricate the tissues. The biggest and most consistent mistake that active individuals make is they go and do their activity, and they're very good about getting that done daily, most of the time. So sometimes too much, because they don't give themselves enough downtime. But they don't do anything to help their body recover from the workout. Like, they don't just kind of do a warm up at the end of the session to just kind of stretch their body back out a little bit. Not literal stretches, but just going through ranges of motion that you just did in a slower, more methodical way, to help your body recover and understand that, hey, we asked you to contract and do all these things to give us all this activity, but now we need to downregulate it and help it recover a bit. You're not having to stretch or anything like that. You're just doing basically the same movements with a slower tempo, easier breathing, and just helping your body open back up. If people did that, they'd be fine. They would be fantastic. And in all honesty, I probably wouldn't have to we probably wouldn't have to see them on the table as much. Because, but in seriousness, like, I tell people all the time, and it may sound like a horrible business model, but I don't want to see you all the time. If I'm seeing you all the time, that means either I'm not doing something right on my end as far as finding out what the problem is, or I'm not referring you to someone that can fix the problem that's going on. But the more common thing that I end up seeing is people just, life happens. They don't get the chance or the opportunity to do this mobility or do anything after the workouts. They stand around and talk, or they have to jump in their car and go do something for the kids, or go make dinner, or whatever the case may be. Just life happens. And they do that enough times, and it catches up with them. And at that point, they just need someone to say, hey, I got you. Let me help you out. And that's where our team comes into place. And, we'll absolutely make sure you're taken care of and get your body doing what it needs to get done, help you get through this, and help you move on and continue to do what you need to be doing. But but the overwhelming goal is, like, to not see you. Like, I don't want to see you. I want to. If I'm not seeing you, then that means that you're doing something to take care of yourself, and that makes me happy. Because if you don't take care of yourself, then you're just getting better, and that makes me happy.
Yeah, it's amazing how resilient our bodies can be. Like you said, we ask so much of them and push them to whatever that limit might be. But then sometimes we don't take the time, or maybe even have the time, we feel like, to downregulate or take care of it on the back end. And I know that can be true of folks who do classes, whether it's CrossFit or other classes. there's this warm up, you kind of get the body moving, you get your workout in, and next thing you know, it's like, all right, equipment's going away, class is over, and like you're running to the next thing, and we don't get that opportunity to stretch or bring it down. And so I'm curious from your perspective. Yeah.
No, I was just saying, a lot of times in those class situations, the class is planned for the warm up. They don't plan for the cool down, and they're running into the next class and kicking everybody out. And so, that's creating a situation for those athletes or those just individuals that are trying to get a workout in. It's setting them up for a little bit of a failure because they themselves are dictating the class, but they didn't dictate time for them to help themselves out at the end of the workout.
Yeah. And so from, your experiences and knowledge base, are there some, best practices, or is there like a protocol that you like in terms of after a workout? Is it like, hey, spend 5 minutes, 10 minutes? Like how much time, or what does that maybe look like for people to get the best possible down regulation? Let's let the body sort of recover and get it back to where it would normally be.
So once you finish your workout, I'm going to use CrossFit as an example just because it's the most common thing that I'm used to and used to seeing and whatnot. Give yourself that 5 minutes to just be like, holy shit, that sucked. Let your body kind of do what it's going to do, flail on the ground, whatever it's going to do. But you need to spend that next 10 to 15 minutes after that just moving. You can go get on a bike. You can, like I said, repeat some of the movements that you just did at a much slower tempo, at a conversational breath. Not something that's creating you to and try and talk. Just something we can talk just like we are right now, doing the movements that you're doing. That's the tempo in which I'm talking about. But those first 10 to 15 minutes right after a workout are the most crucial because your body's still warm. You still got decent blood flow going on to the joints. And the body will tend to do what you ask it to do.
I think that's really helpful too, because a lot of times when we finish that workout, you're like, the last thing I want to do is move even more or feel like I'm putting more stress or strain on the body. So take that time to just let whatever the workout was sink in. All right, now I like that perspective too of just hopping on a bike or do some of those same movements. It doesn't have to be something fancy with a lacrosse ball or a foam roller. And those are great tools, but right after a workout, it can be super simple and just get a few of those movements in you just did, and it'll help you immensely in that recovery process.
Yeah, like you said, it doesn't have to be complicated. And oftentimes, if you keep stuff simple, it usually is more effective.
Yeah. And so speaking of recovery protocols, tools, etc., there's so many different apps out there now, especially, in the functional fitness space with GoWOD and pliability, and people talk about incorporating more yoga and stretching and things like that. All great tools, all great practices that we might be able to put in. Is there anything that you would either recommend or maybe you've seen be helpful? Like, is it helpful to jump on a foam roller or use a lacrosse ball or help with maybe some of those little, aches or sore spots that people might have after a session when they're back at home?
Just like with anything, everybody is different. Everybody responds to a different stimulus. Some things that work for others don't work for the group of people over there. So like I said, it's once they're back at home, it's hard to say because the body's gotten cold. You've gotten stiff. Likely life has gotten in the way, and your focus is just gone. But if you're sitting around watching TV or something like that, if you have a kid, if you have a dog, if you have a pet, whatever, getting on the floor and just kind of moving around a bit, whether it's on a foam roller if you want to, or if you're doing some 90-90 hip flow. And if you don't know what that is, just YouTube 90-90 hip flow. A bunch of stuff will pop up and you'll be fine. Just spend some time doing some movement while you're watching TV, while you're hanging out talking to your loved one. while you're hanging out with your kids, while you're playing with your dogs. It's likely that if you're messing with your kids or your dogs, they'll probably start trying to do it with you. You know, but there's opportunities to take that time to do something, and it's just a matter that most people just don't. Once they finally get home, they just like want to plop down and just kind of relax and chill out and not think about moving at all. It's just this way things are. I mean, I get it. I understand it. I do it sometimes. I mean, I'm no saint. I mean, I probably am pretty bad about it myself. But that's how you can do things at home to help yourself out. Just while you're watching TV, just get down on the floor and go do something. Just move around.
Yeah, especially when we look at how we might incorporate practices into our life that we want to make part of our lifestyle. It's really helpful to stack them onto something we're already doing. So if I'm already in front of the TV watching, all right, let me plop down on the floor and work through some hip flows. Or if I'm playing with the dog, let me just add a little extra in there. So if there's something you're already doing that's part of your daily lifestyle habits, just throw a little bit in, especially if you feel like that's going to help you with the moving piece. And along with that, yeah,
I was just going to say there's one that came to mind that if you decide to get adventurous with it, I believe it's called Phase 6 Primal Movements or something like that. They have an Instagram handle, but I think that's what it's called. But I mean, their stuff's legit. I mean, it's very intense and it's very active and it's very challenging. But like, if you need a challenge, that would be a good one to go with.
I'm definitely gonna have to check them out and see what they've got going on, because I've been trying to incorporate a little bit more of the animal walks, is what I've heard some people describe it as like warm-ups and things like that. And you're like, these are awkward positions that they're not ones you typically get into, but all of a sudden you're like, wow, it really does challenge the joints and the tissues in a way that feels primal, like you said, but feels like you get warmed up too, which is kind of cool.
Oh yeah, I mean, like bear crawls, bear walks, Spider-Man crawls, crab walks, all of that forward and backwards. It's super helpful. We just don't typically do it a lot.
Yeah. Well, one of the things that I know I've seen and interacted with as a coach, both as an individual and as somebody working with other people, is that people come to the gym, they go hard, they push the intensity, and the next day they're trying to figure out and differentiate, is it pain? Is it soreness? Am I just achy? Like, what's going on with the muscles and the tissues? Is there a way that, as you've worked with a lot of people over the years, that you've come to either differentiate between those or help people maybe have a better understanding of some of that, of like, oh, like I can't even walk up the steps today, I should really just take today off? Or, my shoulder's been really bothering me. Well, how long has it been? And because I think people sometimes have a hard time distinguishing, like, should I go see somebody for massage therapy for this? Should I just take the day off or take the week off? How do you help people kind of understand, like, there's going to be some aches and some soreness and some fatigue in the muscles, and that's okay, and help people maybe understand how hard to push or what they should do in those situations?
So that comes down to people actually listening and understanding and knowing how to take in the information their body is giving them. Everybody's a little different. There are some athletes that are so finely tuned to what their body's doing that they almost become hypochondriacs. That there's an injury. There's some athletes that just have zero understanding of what's going on with their body, other than they pick things up and put them down. They have no idea what muscles did what. But in general, like, if you're sore, if you're slow, you're stiff moving and that kind of stuff, that's probably not going to be anything too serious. You probably just pushed it, and you're reaping the rewards of being super active. Good job, you did well, but now you got to recover. And the last thing you want to do on a day like that is to sit still. It's going to make it worse. The best thing you can do is move. It doesn't have to be going to the gym. It can be walking around. It can be moving around on the floor with your kids or your pets, like I was talking about before. But you need to move, because the more you move, the more you stimulate your blood flow into those joints. The more you stimulate the blood flow into those joints, the more they get lubricated. The more they get lubricated, the better you feel. Even if you have arthritis, blood flow helps decrease the aches and pains of arthritis. So now, if you feel something that's sharp, something that's a zinger, like electrical, you know, you could have something going on. At that point, you might have to just give it the day and see if that subsides or if it stays consistent. If it comes and goes, it's likely not an injury. If it stays consistent, it's a good chance you've done something that might require rest or might require a doctor's visit, something along those lines. It's just there is no yes, no, for certain things. You just have to be able to pay attention to your body. And if you are uncertain, it doesn't hurt for you to consult. I would start at lower levels. You can, and if you think that it might be something more than just tissue stuff like soreness and whatnot, you can start at a PT, or you can start with a chiro, because they have the ability to assess and diagnose, whereas a massage therapist does not have the ability to diagnose. That's outside of their protocols. It's outside of their practice act. So if you need some help with diagnosing something, I would say choose a sports chiro. A general chiro is probably not going to be the best call because they're not going to have the insight to understand what's going on. Or just go to a PT and talk with them, and just kind of get their input. They don't have to. It doesn't have to be something concrete at that point in time, but at least get them to help you understand what may be going on, and then just move forward from there. But bottom line, you have to just be willing to listen to your body to even be able to do that.
I've noticed that as a coach, that's probably one of the best things you can do to start a session is just to ask people the simple question of like, how are you feeling today? And if they go into a long story about how they're fatigued and tired and this and that, it gives you a pretty good insight of like, all right, today's maybe just a movement day. We're not going to be pushing the intensity or the loading or whatever else that might be. And I think it's helpful to give people that understanding as well as like soreness is okay. Movement is going to be the medicine for that. So while maybe you're sore and it may not feel great, it's still going to be better than sitting at home or trying to just hope it goes away by not doing anything.
Yeah, and if you're a coach or if you're just an individual going to do your bodybuilding workout at your local, Globo gym type deal, recognizing those people on those days, they do not need to spike their central nervous system. At that point, they need to allow their body to stay more chill, but they do need movement. They do need that movement to help them promote the healing process, but they don't need to spike their central nervous system with an intense workout or an intense load. Keeping them at their 50%-ish range to allow their body to just recover is going to be more beneficial to them than just trying to get a workout in that's going to send them over the top and then probably make them worse for the next 2 days.
Yeah, and I'm sure you've probably seen that a lot of somebody comes in because they had an issue, and rather than taking the proper time and proper recovery protocols, it's like, well, I pushed it for the rest of the week, and next thing you know, now it's really turned into something that maybe they might need to see somebody for. So I like that perspective a lot of, hey, listen to your body, tune in, what's it telling me today? It's okay to throttle back the intensity. It's okay to move at 50%, and it's actually gonna make me feel better in the long haul so I can do all the things outside of the gym that I love doing or I want to do.
Mm-hmm. Unfortunately, the other side, the real reality of all that is that people aren't going to dial it back. Just because when you get around other people, when you get around your friends and groups that are like, oh, you can do it, you can put more weight on, you can go harder, whatever, they just decline.
Yeah.
You just went over the bell curve and you just went on the decline. And it happens
that is probably one of those, that's probably one of those ongoing jokes about CrossFit of like, hey, this is a 50% workout. We're just moving. You look at the person next to you, and it's next thing you know, they're like racing their air squats. You're like, this is just the warm up. We're not even trying to win this, but there's always a winner.
Yeah, and so that's any group setting.
Yeah, 100%. So one of the things that we like to hear from our guests, and this will be really one of the last questions for you, is we've got this sort of model, if you will, that people who know what their purpose is, establish some principles that sort of guide and influence the way they think about, make decisions and process. And then they've got their practices, those daily habits and behaviors that align with that. I think we've got a pretty good insight into yours already, but I'm curious if when you think about this concept of principles, the things, the values that guide, influence, and impact the way that you see the world, do your work, make a difference in others' lives. Does anything come up for you there in terms of these principles that might guide and influence you?
It's not a popular, I guess, phrasing or principle or whatever you want to call it, but right now, people have a hard time working hard. People have a hard time putting in the work. And that's the best thing I can tell people to do is put in the work. It will suck. It is not easy. It is not a quick payoff. So the instant gratification and all that good stuff is not going to be there. But you have to know where you're trying to get to. And as long as you can keep that compass, put in the work. Like I said, one step, then the next one, then the next one. Eventually you get to the first goal, then more steps, you get to the next one. You just have to keep working.
I love that. And I think it captures so much of what you've experienced in your career of making a transition, from corporate America into massage, and then eventually creating and building your own practice to have, 10 therapists and the growth that's expected for this year and beyond, putting in the work. As simple as that allows you to experience all of those benefits. So Vincent, I want to say thanks so much for taking some time to join us on the Greater Culture podcast. If people are interested to hear more about your company or you, what are the best places that they can find you or locate you?
So on social media, it's Myology Sports Massage. And then our website is myologysportsmassage.com. Simple and easy.
Yeah, super easy. I've been fortunate enough to know Vincent and the Myology team for a while now, and they are the best in the business. So if you have any needs in terms of sports massage, can't recommend them enough for everybody out there. So thanks so much, Vincent, for taking some time with us today. Appreciate the conversation.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me.